Hello, I am Carol Crafty Grandma, and today we are going to be finishing up on the top of our bench pillow for all seasons for March. The reason we're taking so long to do it is because in part 2, I believe, I messed up and I made these, which look all fine and dandy, except for the fact that they were only supposed to have white squares on 3 of the corners, not 4 of the corners. So today we are going to recut this fabric. I think I have enough white. I have enough white squares here. I did that in part 5. So we've got the white squares. We have our stem, which is going to go on our white square right here. And then we have the other pieces that make up this part here. So we should be able to get this section cut and recut and put together. And we should then have all of this done, and hopefully, depending on how long the cutting takes, we should be able to get this whole top put together. And then part 7 will just be quilting it and then turning it into a pillow cover. So that would be the last part. And that will be our next activity. So first thing we need to do is we need to get some more of these cut. The reason I have kept these is not just to irritate myself every time I look at them, but because I do like the way I've got them laid out, and I want to make sure I do that again. The problem is I've messed with them so many times, I don't really remember which one goes where. I probably should have left them up here so that I can figure that out, but no. I think now I'm just being fussy. Yeah, those two can't go together. Well, we'll just have to figure it out. So I need that fabric again. Go over here into my stash where I have all of my leftover fabric from this project. Let's see here. It was this one. This one and this one. All right, let's see. How many different fabrics do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's just start there. Let's see. We've got this one. This one. And I don't have a ton of that one left. Let's go with this one. Can't even tell where I cut these. All right, and that one is this one. And that one I've already got in here. That one is this one. All right. So I was supposed to use 12 different patterns and cut 3 of each. I used 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yes. All right. And I need a total of 4 times 3 is 12. So I have 6 fabrics and I need 12 squares. So I just need 2 squares from each fabric. What did I, oh, I left it right here. It was sitting right in front of me, so I don't have to go searching for it. And then I went searching for it. Okay. So I am just going to square this off. I'm not messing with anything. Nope, nothing complicated, just making sure that it is a straight line. And the squares need to be 2.5 inches wide. So now that I've done that, turn this. I am going to cut a strip that is 2.5 inches wide. Yes, I am wasting a ton of fabric here, but I don't see any other way to manipulate around it. I need a 2.5 inch strip, so we're going for it. 2.5 inch strip. And I'm going to take all the rest of this leftover fabric and put it back over here to be put away. Okay, don't need the long ruler anymore. Now we're going to square this side up. Turn the fabric. Two and a half inches. Two and a half inches. And this strip goes over here. And voila. We're back in business. Let's put that over there. Oh, free piece of candy from when I ordered some yarn. I don't know how it got up on the counter here, but it did, so we're going to move it. Okay. Now to decide what we're going to do for the layout. I need water for that. I meant to bring it, forgot it. Forgive the printer. Noise, it's running. All right. There we are. Now we're all set. So I am going to cut out my stem and iron it on so that I can see how it's going to look all together. Extra fabric stuff. There we go. There's that. Now I am using Heat and Bond, and it does not stick to the fabric after you take the paper off. But it also does not need to have a blanket stitch or anything like that done to it to hold it down once it's been ironed on. And normally I still do a blanket stitch anyway, but way back when, in like part 3, when I did this one, because I did this square first, I forgot. So therefore I'm just going with the flow with the rest of them because I don't want them to look different. So I'm just not bothering with the blanket stitch. You can, it's obviously perfectly acceptable, but I'm just not going to. All right, so now I need to do this. It's going to go that way. That's a little short. Oh well. So we go to the iron. Make sure it's facing the way I want it to be facing. And take the paper off the back of it. This can be easy, this can be challenging. It just depends on the mood of the paper that day. And lay it down so that it sits correctly. And press. It just needs the heat to get it going, make it stick. Not quite, almost. Okay, here we go. That goes there. And now we have to figure out where to put these. So like I said, I can see what I did. I'm just not certain what order they went in. Those two can't go together. That might work. All right. Let's see here. Let's get these fabrics separated out that way. All right, so there was a lucky that went there. Let's do that. Then one of these. This one's got a hat. And this one. Here we go. Then down here, let's do this. Then this. Here. And here. Let's do that. There. There. And there. All right. That's kind of like what I already had once before. So we're going to go with that one. Let's just set those off to the side for the time being. Move that out of the way. Okay. Now I need 3 clips. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one goes up there. 1, 2, 3, 4. This way they're in order. And I won't upset myself when I get done and go, oh, there's 2 of them that are right next to each other that are the same. All right. Now let's clear this off of my picture and do that. Excellent. So we have a piece of starter fabric. We need to lower our stitch length to 1.5, and we need to set the machine to always end in needle down. So there, there, and there. Okay. First square, I'm going to put it back in order in front of me so that I know that I'm happy with it, and I am. I'm going to stitch them together with a 1/4 inch seam, like always. Now I will do the second pair. Line them up. They should be exactly the same size, so you should be able to just put them right together. Now we're going to take our second square and do the same thing. Put all 4 pieces right in front of me so that I know I'm happy with the direction they're facing and everything like that. And then stitch them together. And we are chain piecing here. That way you don't need a bazillion pieces of starter fabric. You just keep going and get everything in it. That way pieces stay in order also. Okay. Now over and together. And our last square, put it here, make sure I like the directions. Actually, I think I want that one like that. There we go. And piece. Excellent. We now have our 3-4 patches started. So here we go. This is the first block, the first 4. This is the second 4, and this is the third 4. I'm leaving them all together because I want to make sure that I put them in the right order up here. And in order to do that, I leave them together. If you don't like this, if you're having a hard time manipulating it with it all put together, feel free to separate them. I would still at least keep the squares together, the 2 and 2 and 2. But if you can keep them straight in your mind, or you just don't care, which is another thing, feel free to cut them apart. I'm going to keep them together. And now, in order to have nested seams, we need to iron, we need to press the fabric in opposite directions. So I'm going to keep the top one facing me, the next one facing up, and I'm doing this. That way they're going to be facing opposite directions of each other. I really need to get an iron camera. I don't know how, but I need to get an iron camera. All right, so this first one, I'm going to take it and I'm going to finger press it open from the bottom to the top. Let the heat sit there. This next one I'm going to take from the top and open it to the bottom and finger press it. That way that seam is going the opposite way. And I'm going to work my way down the row. And now the top one always gets the most heat, because by the time I get to the bottom one, I'm like, okay, I'm done. So I have to remind myself to stop and let the heat sit on the bottom also. All right, here we have all of our pieces pressed open. And let's go here. And so when we pressed them, come on, you were supposed to do what I tell you, not what you want. All of the fabric, the seam is facing this way. This one, it's facing that way, this way, that way, this way, that way. So that, now that'll allow me to take my two pieces of fabric that are going to make a square and match the seams up, and they nest together. So you've got all the fabric from the seam over here and all the fabric from the seam on the other side. So let's go to the machine and sew these together. I do like to use a pin at this point. You can use a clip if you want. I prefer a pin because it has 2 points of impact on the fabric. Just my opinion, personal preference. If you like to use the clips, go for it. I just prefer to have the pin so that it is definitely not going to be moving, shifting on me while we're sewing. Come on, you can see, but there we go. And now we need 3 pieces of starter fabric. Let's get these put together. 2. And last but most certainly not least, 3. Now we have 3 4 patches. So our 4 patches are now sewn together. There we go. All sewn together, still in the order I want them to be in. So I like that. The first one is going to go on the top. So it does not matter which way I press the seam. It can go either way, because it is not going to join to another seam. It's just going to join up to this solid square piece right here. So it doesn't matter which way I do the seam. Come on, there we go. Now the next 2 are going to be next to each other. So they're going to have to join on their seam, just like this one did. There's a seam right here, so they have to be joined together. So you want to do one way, one the other way. So this one I'm going to do up towards the top 2 squares. And then this one I'm going to do down so that the seam is by the bottom 2 squares. And that way they will nest into each other when we join them. All right. So now it's time to trim off all the extra parts and pieces and get them cleaned up and separate from each other. So this is number 1. It goes right there. Number 2. And number 3. And now they're all still where I wanted them to be. So that's a good thing. So now the next thing we need to do is make them look round, because right now it just looks like a point. And it needs to look round like these do. So to do that, we're going to put these little white pieces of fabric in the corners. To put them in the corners, we need a heat-resistant, or a Frixion pen. This goes away when you get it hot. During the first batch that didn't work, it's a good thing because I had actually messed up. I used a green gel pen to draw my lines. And as you can see, after I used the Best Press on it, the green whatever that word is, into the fabric, into the white fabric. It's not melted, but yeah. It's the thing you don't want to happen to your laundry when you put red clothes and white clothes together. Bleed, that's the word I wanted. Bled into the, so the green ink bled onto the white fabric. That we don't want. So we are using a Frixon pen. Woo! Can't see it. There we go. And a Frixon pen, if you've never used them, on paper they erase. Oops, there we go. On paper they erase. So this part here is the eraser that erases on paper. On fabric, come on, focus in. There we go. On fabric, once you get it hot, the line goes away. So if you put it under an iron, the line will go away. There are two ways to do this. Well, there's actually three. First one is the 45-degree angle on your ruler. Line it up with one cut edge of the fabric and at the tip of the fabric. And now you can draw the line from the middle out. I have found that if I start on the tip, it actually messes things up, so I start in the middle all the time. The other thing you can do is just line it up from point to point and draw the line. This way you can use any ruler you don't, or any straight edge actually, the edge of a book would work. The third way is to buy a gadget that attaches to your sewing machine and puts out a laser line, and you can follow that when you sew. I do not have that gadget. I just haven't seen a reason for it. I go ahead and draw the lines, and you are, sorry, technology is, I wasn't paying attention to it, and it shut down for a minute. There we go. I know you all still get to see me, but I can't see myself on the tablet if it turns off. There we go. Okay, so now we have all 9 squares marked. And the next thing we have to do is get some pins. And you can do all 3 of these at the same time. I'm thinking I might. I'm just afraid that I'm going to mix them up, but I think I can do this. So this is square number 3. It's going to go on the bottom. That's the point that does not get rounded because it attaches to the stem. Helps if you have a pin. So this is the first one. Then you want it to go around that way. And last but not least, right here. All right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it down on the bottom because it's number 3. I want to keep them in order because otherwise I'm going to hate myself. So now this one, that's the point that stays. So this one gets rounded. And I'm not putting these absolutely perfectly square in the corner. I'm just placing them where I want so I know which corners to do. That one. And this one. And last square. That's the point that we need to stay. That one. That one. And this one. All right. So now we have all three put together so we know where we're rounding them at. We're going to take them over to the machine and sew them and hopefully keep them in order. Oop, that's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. There we go. I keep these in order and don't get them all messed up. Okay. Pin case goes over there. Now you want to make sure they're nice and square in the corner. So they're all straight. And you stitch on the line. Come on. What got caught? There we go. Let's see, did we sew? Yeah, we just, oh, something got caught. Ah, that's what it was. And now our third side. There's number one. Number two and leaf number three. Okay, that's square number three. Now we go to that camera. There we are. So square number one. Next thing we need to do is cut off our extra. So we sewed a seam. Oops, there we go. We sewed a seam right on the blue line. And now we need to get our 1/4 inch and cut off the 1/4 inch. So line up a ruler on a 1/4 inch and trim. And cut off all of our tails here. They're sticking out. That, and then we go to our iron. Now I am pressing these towards the white triangles, the seams towards the white triangles. It's counterintuitive. Normally we don't press to white fabric, but in this case, for what we're doing, it needs to be done that way for everything to work and not look ridiculously bulky. Got the first 2 done. Let's get this 3rd one in here. There we go. And these are small enough that my iron can cover the whole piece at one time. So I'm letting them all just sort of rest. Sorry, I have a kitty cat hanging out. She was looking concerned, so I was trying to figure out what she was looking concerned about. All right, here's the first one. That's going to go back up here. We're going to do the same thing on the next 2. Trim off the triangles. And now back over here. Press down once, seal it in place. And now press open. What you doing, big girl? Bye, baby. Kitty cat's leaving me. Okay. This is number 2. Sit there for a minute. And number 3. that is trimmed. And now we will seal and press. There we go. Get them all. Get the seams all underneath the iron. Let it press for a little bit. Microphone box always gets to me. Okay. And here we go. This is our third leaf. Now we have a 4-patch. And you can see that now, instead of being pointed, it looks like the leaves are round. That's our little trick in quilting on how to make things go round. Now, I need 2 clips because we need to put this piece and this piece together. Sorry, I feel like I stepped on something pointy, which is never a good thing in a sewing room. All right. So this one goes to this one at that point, and this one goes with this one on that side. So back to the machine we go. Let's see, those go that way. Yes, they do. All right, starter fabric. Now we're going to match up our seams so they're all nice and nested. And it's going to be tricky, but we can do this. Stitch along. All right. Take the pin out, and now this one, we don't have a seam to match up, but we do want to make sure we keep it straight. We're going to go back and we're going to press. And let's see, we want that one to go that way, so that one needs to go that way. These seams need to nest with each other, and we want to press towards the solid white fabric on that one, so the other one has to go the opposite direction. So you will see people do the chain piecing like this for 4 patches and not iron in between. They will go directly from what I just did, sewing, staying at the machine, and just sort of finger press the seams one way or another, and then sew the next seam right away. I'm not crazy about that. I prefer to have my seams pressed, and that way I think they nest better that way. But I have seen it done, and it is done on a lot of different channels. And now we're going to turn our two squares into a 4 square. Matching up our seams. There we go. And we're off. Alright, now we go back to the iron and press this open, and it does not matter which way the seam goes because there are 2 pieces of sashing, one on either side. Hey, I finally got my stem right. It only took me 3 clovers. 3 clovers. These are clover leaves. And then, so all 3 of them with the stem would be a clover. All right. Okay, so here's what I was excited about. My stem looks like it's going right into the leaf. If I pick you up and move you over here and show you this one, you'll see there's a white spot between the stem and the other leaf. And over here, I have the same problem. Oops, sorry about that. But with this one, it looks like it goes right into it. Now we go here, we go out to the big view, and I put it up here. And I walk back this way, and I look at all 3 of them from a distance, and I can't really tell the difference. I can a little bit, but that's only because I know that it's there and I'm looking for it. Anybody else looking at it will never notice that I did that. But it is something that I will notice every time I look at it. It's like, ah, dang it. All right, so now we have to make this portion of it. And to do that, we fold these 2 squares into quarters and press them so that they have a nice seam in them. We don't want to press it too hard because we will be eventually making that seam go away, but we want it to last long enough to get our corners put on it. Now, in part 1, when I was cutting this fabric, I did what's called a fussy cut. Instead of just zip along and cutting the squares, I actually cut them in a certain direction. I cut them at a diagonal because if I hadn't, these brown lines, instead of going from side to side like this, would be going across. And I wanted them to go the way I wanted them to go. So if you have fabric that is directional, you can do a fussy cut and make it go the direction you want it to, or you can go with the standard way of doing things and just cut it the regular way. All right, so 2 of these pieces are going to be pressed wrong sides together. Is that right? Now I have to remember. The rest are all going to go the other way. So this needs to be pressed right sides together. All the rest of them go wrong sides. Okay. And I did discover during part 5 yesterday that I can do 2 at once. Just going to let those sit for a minute. Let's go that way, that goes that way. All right. There we go. Get those ready. Now, this goes there. Yep, and that goes there. Perfect. Now, let's get the other ones done. I wonder if I can do the whole stack. These go wrong sides together. Because I'm afraid with 6 of them stacked like this, I'm afraid that the first one isn't going to be folded enough to match up correctly. But I could be wrong. Or I could be right. Yeah, too many. There we go. Three. And then these 3. Very loud truck making noise out there. I know you can't hear him, but I can. I figure I'll be hearing trucks for another 5 years. All right, let's see. I'm going to set those off to the side, and I'm going to set these off to the side. Let's look here. So we have to do these 2 triangles at a time. We can't put all 4 around at the same time. We have to do it in parts, otherwise it won't work right. So we don't want our triangles sewn on starting at the edge of the triangle down. That means that point would be there, that point would be there would be points everywhere. So that's why we fold it. We've got a nice little fold in there, little crease. We match this up. We match our triangle up, and we pin in the crease so that it stays nice and straight. Turn to the other side. We've got our fold, and we match it up so that it sits right in the crease. There we go. And we pin it. So now we've got those 2 done. Let's do the same thing to this square. Match it up. Ooh, the Geek Squad's in town. Somebody's having computer trouble. Okay. Over to the computer. Over to the sewing machine. You got computer on the brain now. All right. We need 2 pieces of starter fabric. Do down one side. Oh, that's right. We don't need starter fabric. I forgot. I did this yesterday too. We're not actually starting at the edge. We've got fabric sitting up top above the edge, so we don't need starter fabric. We've got it built into our pieces. Where's my pin case? There's my pin case. Now I could have chain pieced it, but I thought about it, and I know that's how I did it on the last part, but you know, it's just as easy to not, because those little triangles stick out and they get in your way, and it just makes it more challenging. So now comes the tricky part. I do not want to get rid of this fold that I have pressed into the fabric. So I need to iron them, press them, without getting rid of that middle press so that I can use it for these other pieces. And I press towards the triangles. And you do that on all 4 sides, press towards the triangles. That just makes it nice and I can't remember why, but you do it. Even though that gives you some thick fabric in the four corners, it's still, it's less fabric than it would be otherwise. If you press towards the square, then in the corner of each of the four corners of the square, you'd have like 6 layers of fabric, and you don't want that. Oh, I got lucky. I have hearts and shamrocks facing the same direction this time. Nothing lying on its side. We'll see if I can get that lucky again. Okay, there's one. Yeah, we'll have to look at that. See what we've got on this one. Okay, let's look here. And this is going to sit like this. So our hearts, well, here, yeah, like that, like a square. So our hearts are facing the right way, shamrocks are facing the right way. This one, I'm going to do like that. And that has my horseshoes facing upright. And the shamrocks, they're directional, but they're not too bad. So here, that would make them face sideways. Any place I put them, they're going to face sideways. So I'm just going to go with it. Oh, need my pins back. Back and forth with the pins. I'm going to put this one over here because I already have enough horseshoes on that one. And let's see, it's got hearts going sideways. That's too many shamrocks. Yeah, let's do that. All right. Now, match up our fold. There we go. And then go over here. Back to the machine. And now I'm going to press them towards the triangles, but I don't care about getting rid of the creases anymore because we're done with that project. So just press away. Okay. So I'm going to put this up here just so that I can have it there. We're going to use it in just a minute. We've still got something else to do to it, but I'm just putting it there so it's out of the way. Figure out which one I want on which side. I'm thinking it's going to go there because there's a fabric just like it in this shamrock leaf above it. I've got to see how this one comes out first. Yeah, that one's going to be on that side. Okay, so we know that's going to be on that side because this has got the same pattern, and this has got the shamrocks in it, and I didn't want those right next to each other. Okay. Now with these, we have to cut off the tongues, the things that are sticking out. So as long as we're going to do that, we might as well square it up to 4.5 inches. This is a 4.5 inch square. You don't have to have a 4.5 inch square, you just have to have a ruler. That's at least 2 1/4 inches wide. So I'm lining up 2 1/4 on each point. There we go. There we go. There we go. Oh, I messed it up. Now that I've messed it up, I can move it. Okay, this one is on this side. Two and a quarter, 2 1/4, 2 1/4. There we go. These two sides. All right. So now we need to sew these two pieces together at that point. Because there are points on these, we take a pin, we go through the first one right where the stitches meet. And then we take the pin and we go through the second piece of fabric right where the fabrics meet, which is also where the stitches meet, just on the other side. And then we line it all up so it's nice and straight. Keeping that pin there so that it keeps those 2 points together. And now we're ready to sew. Fabric wanted to try and stick up there for a moment, so let's make sure it stays. And you want to sew through the X where all those pieces of fabric join together. There we go. Excellent. Now, to determine the direction you want to press, open this up. This is where we're going. And you feel underneath. And this one is pressed going towards the right. So this is the one I need to press towards the left-hand square. Ooh. Hiccups. Water. All right, press, press, press. Okay. Trim our extra fabric off, starter fabric, and our tail. Voila. And now we want to sew these two pieces together. Okay, we're going to find nest our seam. There we go. Make sure we're straight along the edge. There we go. And then I'm going to sew from the side of the diamonds, because we know that they've been cut to 4.5 inches square. So they've got a straight line, whereas the other side with the shamrocks, the little triangles could be a little off. So just to keep our seam straight, we're going to sew from the side with the diamonds. Never sew over pins. You can break a needle. You can fly around the room. Never fun. I cannot tell you how many needles I've broken over the years. always one of those things where you go, dang it. Because it causes a problem every time. And it does not matter. Oh, there we go. That's not it either. That's what we wanted. It does not matter which way we press the seam. I am going to press it towards the diamonds because there are less seams there. Let me verify that's what I did. No, I pressed towards the leaf. Oh, because of the corners. The little tips are really thick, lots of fabric there. So I've pressed towards the shamrock on both times. So I'm going to do that again. And again, doesn't matter a whole lot as far as, because you're not nesting seams at any point, but just to try and have the least amount of bulk in your corners. That's what you want to do. Tablet. Don't do that. There we go. All right. Look at this. And we finally have our first one done. Or should I say, well, not technically redone because it was never fully completed the first time. So now you're looking at me and you're like, okay, so now you're just going to join that one to that one and that one to that one. And that. You try and have the least amount of fabric as you can. So I'm going to join these two on first to this piece, and then we will take this whole group and join it to this one. And that way we're not manipulating too many fabrics at one time. But I am going to do both of these at the same time over at the machine because they don't have any intersecting seams. So I'm just going to sew one and then the other. So let's get the black one piece out of the way right now. Fold this over. I'm going to just make sure it lines up with the white square. And give it a pin or two to keep it straight. And then make sure it's straight on the top, which it is. I don't know if you can tell, a little bit, there's some of the green fabric is sticking out. We're going to ignore that. We're going to use the white fabric as our guide for a 1/4 inch seam. And that way we know we're going to have a straight seam. Beautiful. Now let's get the second starter fabric going. And we'll open this up so the right side is out. And we'll put right sides together. And again, matching up corners, making sure everything is straight. And then pinning it so it stays straight. And feel free to put as many pins in as you want. I like to just put one in so that I don't have a ton of them to take out, but it's a personal preference. You can do it either way. Now we need to press our seams. So like I said, they didn't intersect each other anywhere, so pressing, I didn't need to wait to do them. I can press them now. And I know I pressed to the white on the one sashing, and then I pressed to the black. I'm going to press to the white first. Because the white sashing doesn't have any seams in it, and our shamrock has a bunch of seams in it. Go that way. Finger press it out. This way. And now we're going to press to the black. Beautiful. Look at this. We're getting there. So now we have to put our first piece and our second and third pieces together. And again, we're going to use our white sashing as our guide because it is cut straight, and that pen just keeps falling. I have a pen that keeps falling on the ground. But so the other piece can be slightly off, so we want to make sure that we've got it straight and square. There we go. Definitely have some overlap here, so I'm going to put some more pins in just so that I don't get sidetracked and try and squish things together when I shouldn't. Because I've been known to do that. Like, oh, I need to move the fabric over. No, this is where you want it. You want to keep it straight. All right. let us press to the sashing. You sit there for a minute. Borders. Which border goes on first? That's what I thought, the side border. So these are finally going in the garbage. I don't need them anymore, and they are bad, and I don't want to have to look at them anymore. Oh, I messed up. So I was supposed to press open the little white triangle seams. I forgot about that. I remember that now when I'm looking at it going, why are they pressed open? I was supposed to do that. I didn't do that. I did it on the middle one. But that's it. Shamrock 1 and 3 have all of the fabric pressed to the white triangle around that make the leaves round. Whereas in the book, it tells me to press it open. Okay. Here we go. We are so close to having this top pieced. All right. So in part 1, way back when I cut all the fabric, I fussy cut the border because I wanted the different things to be where they are. And I did not cut them down to size. And I told you at the time there was a reason for that, and I would tell you later. Here's the reason. When it comes to borders, I typically don't cut them to size. I have been with this book, in case you don't remember, Bench Pillows for All Seasons. Because when I started this series, I made the comment that I was going to follow the book. And although I have taken liberties here and there, I've mostly tried to follow exactly what the book did, where they did their placements, and things like that. When it comes to borders, I don't like to cut them to size because you can't square them up afterwards. Now, I did use more fabric here just because of the way I was cutting it. Normally, I wouldn't have made the sides this long. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine where I want my placement to be on this border. So I like having the shamrock up at the top, and that kind of gives me a little bit of extra down here. So now I'm going to shift it a little bit more. Let's go to this close-up camera. Maybe see if that'll make more sense. All right. Can you see? You can see. All right, good. Let's move it back a little bit so you can see a little bit better. There we go. Focus in. So I wouldn't want to get half of the shamrock set. I want to get the whole thing with the border since this fabric has a definite border to it. So I did not cut this to size. This way I can fit it on. And then flip it over. And pin it where I want so that I have the border styled just like I want it. Now the other thing is this border is like 1/8 of an inch wider than I needed, but I went with it because I wanted to, it's going to be the same all the way around, so it's a little bit wider than it needs to be, but it's fine. Okay, so now we've got this side, and this border is over here, and let's look. We've got shamrocks. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to sort of center it a little bit. Match it up to the edge and put pins in it. And just like I said that day, when I was doing my cutting, we are wasting a lot of fabric here. This is, if you are someone who is really, really cautious about the amount of fabric you use, fussy cutting and this sort of thing is not going to be your cup of tea. And now let's go to the sewing machine and sew these pieces on. No starter fabric necessary because I have more than enough fabric off the edge. You do not want to start right at the edge of your quilt. You want to start a little further up. That way your seam is right on the edge where it needs to be. And I forgot my pin holder again. Do that all the time. And again, no intersecting seams, so we can do this one right away. And now we're going to press. I am going to press to the black seam. That way when I put the long borders on, I can press to the border and not have things get wonky. And no, I'm not cutting it right now. I'm not going to cut it until after I get it over there and it's been pressed. Oops, what did I knock over? Nothing. right, so there's one side. There we go. Now let's go over here and square it up. I'm going to need a longer ruler, not the longest I have, but a longer ruler. Because we want to square up this edge. And so we want to line it up on the seam where the black and the white meet, and on the seam where the black and the border meet, and keeping it as straight as we can next to the edge. Take this, and now our border is perfectly even and square with the rest of the quilt top. Do the same thing, going the other direction here. Same idea. Make sure your seams are all in line. And now you can see the black here is a little bit longer than the white. So we're going to line up with the white and with the rest of the quilt top. And instead of just cutting off the border, we're going to cut off that extra piece of the black and the border. So now we have a nice square edge. We do this in all four corners. Making sure we're straight and square. Look at this. And look at this. 2 more seams and we're done. We've got everything all the way across, and you can see these are perfectly straight and even. You've got some bumps and things along the way around the shamrocks, but we have perfectly square corners to line up our borders with now. We need the border and we need the pins. Let's see. Bottom border. Start in a corner and get it lined up. How do we do on the other side? Oh, that's great. Right where I want it. All right. right. Keeping it all straight and even. Very important as we go along. Now I am going to go to the other corner and go backwards. Because I need to make sure this piece is even and straight. Yeah, it didn't work out perfectly the way I wanted it to, but it's still going to be really close. And the pins are up to you. When I'm doing really long sections, especially, well, definitely when I'm doing long sections, I do still like to pin them. I know I don't use pins very often, but if you're doing a really long straight seam and you want it to be straight and not have your fabric wobble all over the place, you do want to use pins. All right, there's that. Now, this one, there's a hat there, so I don't want a hat there. I think that'll work. Go. Seems to me this is one of the first ones that they've had in this book that I've done that actually has this long of a border. I could be wrong. Now, February had a decent sized border too, I think. Yeah, but February's was pieced, so it's not one big piece of fabric, so that's different. I thought it wasn't the same. I just couldn't remember what was different about it. All right, and again, these seams are not intersecting, so I can do them both in one fell swoop. No feeder starter fabric necessary because we're starting off the side of the fabric anyway. So when you've got something long like this, it's going to want to pull to the side. So you want to try and keep the fabric as far on the counter as much as you can, or on your table or whatever, and keep it straight, because it does want to naturally pull off to the side when you have all this fabric sitting alongside of it. down the other side. Let's make sure that's, the seams were starting to pop the wrong way. All right, here we go. And that part is done. Get that pin out of there. Let's get this pressed. Oh, we're gonna run a little late today. All right, let's get this pressed. I was about to go, oh no, I did it upside down. It's the bottom border, not the top border. It's the way it's supposed to be. All right, let's do the other side. Okay. Finger press to get it started. Okay. So next time we will cut the corners off and finish it up. Oops, it's not straight. There we go. All right, so here we go. We are so close. So in part, whatever the next part is, I think it's part 7, we will trim off the corners of this outside border. We will make a sandwich. We will quilt it. We will turn it into a pillowcase. So join me next time. We'll get that all finished up for you. Thank you for visiting, and we'll see you next time.